Hello, and thanks for joining us for another episode of MidAmerican Gardener. I'm your host, Tinisha Spain, and joining me in the studio today is my pal Chuck, and we have got a lot to talk about today. So why don't you introduce yourself, and I'm going to snack on these cookies while you do it.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. I am Chuck Voigt. For a little over 27 years, I was a vegetable and herb specialist at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I've been retired now almost, wait a second, we're past the first of the year. I've been retired for 10 years.
Holy cow.
How fast it moves as you're moving away from something. But hopefully I've still got it.
I think you've still got it.
And we'll see.
I tell you what, your planting guide is in hot demand. So at least in that area, you still got it, because the people love Chuck's planting guide.
Yeah. Well, I have a great idea, but I don't know if I will ever execute it. And we talked about it a little bit just a minute ago. What I would like to do is write a theoretical season in the garden with everything I should or could be doing today, and just go through 12 months that way with filling it out. I think, given the popularity of the schedule, that might be onto something, but it's just kicking myself and getting it done. But
well, now that you've said it on the show,
yeah, tell us if that's a good idea.
Yeah, send in your feedback if you want a year of Chuck's planting journal. And are you talking about like through cleanup, through 365 days?
Right. You know, today's January 1st, and
I like that.
I'm looking at the catalogs today, or the sun is shining and I'm out.
I like it, Chuck. You're onto something. Okay. Well, so it's almost time. It's so close. We're on the cusp of all the things that we're just dying to do. So you brought in some branches from your peach tree.
Right. And they're not a commercial variety of peaches. They're the ones that sort of self-sow themselves, maybe with a little help from squirrels. So there always seem to be some around the farm somewhere. But I thought it was a good time to talk about peaches and how to prune them and when to prune them and those kinds of things. And then we can talk about hardiness as well as we get going.
Now, does this apply to fruit trees, what you're about to tell us, or is this specifically for peaches?
This is fairly specifically peaches.
Okay.
Like we've talked before about, my personal opinion of peaches is wait and prune them last, maybe when the vegetative buds are starting to break. So at that point you can tell if the flower buds have survived the winter, what's alive and what's dead.
Okay.
But first, let's talk about how do you prune a peach. You have a baby peach tree, you plant it, and maybe it's 3 feet tall. You can let it grow a year, then you top it at 2 to 3 feet. Branches break. You probably get 3 to 5. They grow away from that point where you cut them, and then you have an open center or a vase-shaped tree, and that's really good for peaches because the best peaches get to see the sunshine.
Ah, okay.
And if the tree closes in, so you if you can establish that original framework and then just kind of work with that through the years.
Okay.
That's how you start. And then in any given year, I would probably wait at least until late March, depending on how the season is going, and wait to see just the start of the vegetative bud. The flower buds are like little round guys, and on a big healthy branch, there might be one on either side of a little pointier vegetative bud.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the vegetative buds are way more winter hardy than are the flower buds. So that's one of the banes of peach growing in central or northern Illinois. The other thing that can happen is if they get coaxed out too early, and then they get frozen while they're out.
So you get the 63, 65 little streak there, and then it tanks again.
Right. Right. They're right there with those early magnolias that are gorgeous one day and brown and stinky the next. So those are some of the heartbreaks of peaches. They're the shortest lived of all the fruit trees that I can think of. They get borers, and those are hard to control.
We had one and it only made it 3 years. We had a rough winter. This was 6 or 7 years ago when we were having all that ice. Gone. Took it out, goner.
Yeah,
and I haven't replanted another one because it is hard to get them to survive.
That's at least where I'm from, and I'm from, I guess, what's technically northeastern Illinois, 60 miles away from the heart of Chicago, thank goodness. But you anywhere but deep southern Illinois, people, Chicago is what they think of. Anyway, peaches are the heartbreakers of the fruit group. That's that part of the message. Assuming you get them through, first thing you want to do is establish what's alive and what's dead. I purposely chose this one because it's mostly dead.
Now I'm just looking at the coloration. I mean, is that
right? Yeah, the live wood is red. If you don't mind nicking it just a little, it'll show green under the bark.
Okay. Give it a little scratch test there.
And then at that point, you're looking at all of this. And the other thing that peaches do is they are way too optimistic about how many fruit they can grow. So assuming you get them through the winter and the
fall,
fruit,
spring,
and the flower buds are alive, you want to cut them back at least half. Might want to sharpen your pruners. At least half, and maybe even a little more than half. And then just depending on if there's a direction you would like it, if you'd like, say, for instance, we wanted to straighten this one out, we would choose a bud that's pointing back to my left, which we sort of have there.
Okay.
And then cut it back to that, and then hopefully that would keep it from being a problem. That whole thing is dead.
And so, remind me again, date-wise, is this something that we can be doing now, or you said wait until about mid to late?
I would be pruning
March?
my apples
Okay.
and some other things now, and leave the peaches until buds start to break, which could happen in late March or maybe not until early April. It just depends. And so you would, and one like that, you would do the same thing to all those side branches, and if some of them are growing back into the center of the tree, you would just take them out altogether, and then eventually you'd have a nice open center and short bearing little branches. And
before the show, we were talking about, we like to go to the cherry blossom. Where is that?
Japan House?
Japan House. I've drawn a blank. And there were years where I was learning about these, and if you get that warm spell and then it goes cold again, all the blossoms fall off and you don't get to enjoy them that year. Is that sort of the same principle with the fruit trees if it gets too warm and then cools off really quickly?
Especially with peaches and apricots. Apricots bloom even earlier than peaches, so it's not uncommon for apricot blossoms to get frozen because they get misled by 65 degrees in February.
Yes.
And that's the other thing with winter cold. It's much less damaging earlier because the dormancy is as deep as it can be, and so their internal plant antifreeze is at its peak. So if you're going to have marginal cold weather, it's much better to have it earlier, late fall or early winter than, from mid-February on.
Yes.
because that dormancy is starting to, the chill requirement has been met, and they're ready to jump the gun and take off. So, and that's why scheduling like a cherry blossom festival is almost impossible.
Yes.
Because if it warms up early, it may happen on the Ides of March, or it could happen.
No, we had to abandon the whole story because it was like there were like onesie twosie blooms, and they all fell to the ground, and we didn't get to enjoy them that year. So the trees had other plans.
Yeah,
But you mentioned these are the heartbreakers of the fruit tree family.
They are.
Do you get to enjoy the fruits every year, or are there years where you don't get any?
Up in northeastern Illinois, pre the change of zone maps and whatever, I was happy if we got a good crop every third year, 1 and 3.
Okay.
And as I was down here, and as things have started to warm up a little bit, in Champaign, I think a peach grower might do as well as every other year.
Okay.
But to expect to have them every year, you need to go to deep southern Illinois or up in the lake shadow in southwest Michigan, somewhere like that. Peaches, the tree is pretty hardy, but the fruit blossoms have all kinds of ways to disappoint you. And then about the time you get them going, I had 2 Reliance trees started. I think they're coming into their 3rd year, and they got big snow, and I hadn't wrapped them. Snow goes away. They were both girdled.
Oh, I was just going to ask you. Is there anything you can do if you have, and obviously if this is a giant tree, no, but if it's a smaller tree, a newer tree, is there anything you can do? Can you bag it? Can you wrap it? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay. I think it's first of all, I would put an unused tomato cage maybe around them.
Okay.
But then we used to always just take, bags left over, fertilizer bags, whatever, and wrap them right down to the ground so that those voles and things can't get to them, and then go up high enough because you get snow and rabbits are going to be after them, although rabbits are more likely to snip back the branches rather than doing a complete girdling. The best girdlers are the voles under the snow.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Let's move on to, is there anything else you wanted to cover on fruit trees that we didn't get to? Or do you want to?
No. We can talk about apples and other kinds of fruits at some other time, but definitely start pruning apples early. Because of fire blights, you don't want to prune pear trees too much. Early on, if you can get their basic structure down, then you don't have to do too much. And then once they start bearing, that kind of slows down their growth rate, and that's good for pears.
Okay. All right. So the planting guide, we talked about that a little bit ago. Let's give us a where we are now. So in the March 1st to 15th range, tell us what we should be doing.
Well, we're getting to that point where some of the faster growing seedlings could be started. And you have to kind of look at where we are with the weather and listen to some degree to long-range projections of the meteorologists and figure out when you might need these cool season things going. But the whole cabbage family, you can get them going, and then because they'll under good conditions, 2 or 3 weeks, a cabbage can be pretty much ready to go outside. It might take them a week to germinate, and then 2 or 3 weeks beyond that, you can pretty much start to get them ready to go outside. So I think we could start any of those things now.
Okay. And then we had a question come in. Let's see. Karen Benner writes, well, there's several questions in here, so we'll break this down. What is the best way to start onion seeds? And then she says, I thought about putting them outside in a milk jug, winter sowing. We talk about that a lot. Or should I plant them straight in the garden or in seed trays? So let's back all the way up. Seeds or sets? Because let's talk about how to grow onions.
Traditionally, I was a transplant guy, buy transplants. Transplants have gotten so expensive in the last 5 or 10 years that I have, for the small amount of onions that I need, have gone to sets just because they're so much cheaper. You can go to a big box farm store and get them for not very much a pound. And since you want smallish ones, because if onion sets are too big, you'll get a seed stalk, and that kind of messes up the whole onion process. So you want to stay maybe 3/8 of an inch.
Okay.
And what I do is 25 red, 25 white, and 25 yellow. And you can hardly feel that weight in the bag. So that works okay. The problem with sets is that they keep really well, and the best keepers are also the most pungent. So onions from sets are going to be fairly pungent. So if you want to cook with onions, sets are pretty good. If you want to eat one like an apple, either have a really strong constitution or go with something else. So to get some of the sweet onions, you'd have to start those.
Gotcha.
And I would, when I had access to greenhouse space, I would start things like Ailsa Craig, which is the one that gets, in the pictures they show it as big as a soccer ball, but that's pushing.
Clever marketing.
That's pushing it a little. But 1.5 to 2 pounds is not impossible.
Wow.
But they're the other end of the spectrum from set onions. Have very low pungency, so they're extremely sweet.
Okay.
That would be the candy onion that you might want to eat out of your hand, but they don't keep.
Okay, so there's pros and cons.
So that's why, like, the Vidalia sweets are seasonal, and they've done some work with storage and some other things, but they're still pretty seasonal because to be a Vidalia onion, you have to be in, I think it's 15 county area of Georgia. It's like champagne has to come from a certain area of France.
Interesting.
Vidalia onions have to come from there. The other thing there is that their soils are low in sulfur, which also keeps the pungency down. And so
I did not know that.
Especially in the modern gasoline, when you don't get sulfur dioxide, making sulfuric acid in the air, that helps. So onions are interesting. The other thing is direct sowing can work pretty well. They may not get as big, but
when would you time that?
I would time that the first time that the soil is workable in the spring, when it's not ridiculous. So if it's 65 on February 15th, maybe don't worry about it then. If it's 65 May 10th or 15th, March,
okay.
March 10th or 15th, then you can think about it, because they can go out pretty early, as long as they're not up and growing to where they can get vernalized. I think people up in the Chicago area who used to grow onions, I think they tried to get them sown in that time period. Certainly the set growers would try to get them in then too.
Okay.
And then, if you can start some in a flat, that's great, because transplants are good. You can have much better variety choice if you're buying seeds and sowing them. But
she mentioned winter sowing. Is it too late for that? And do onions do well as a winter sow?
I don't actually know. Winter sowing is kind of a recent thing that I really haven't had a hands-on experience with.
Okay. Well, give it a shot.
What I know about it, I've heard you talking, somebody else on the show talking about it.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, she mentioned those, so maybe give it a shot. So we talked about direct sow. We talked about starting them in trays, seeds, sets. You've got options there.
You still do.
grow onion.
You know, we're getting past. I would think the winter sow portion of that, but
Okay.
who knows?
What else can we start or begin thinking about? We talked a little bit about spinach. Would that be the next candidate, you think?
Spinach is interesting because it will sprout and germinate, grow, and stand probably as cool a temperature as any of the crops that we grow. So if I were going to risk anything out in a really early sowing, it would probably be onions and spinach, because the critical temperature for spinach to keep growing is relatively low.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. And kale, would kale fall into that, or does kale need it a little bit warmer?
kale is probably the most cold tolerant of the cabbage family, but I don't know if I would necessarily start them out quite this early.
Okay. All right. Now, you talked about cleaning up your asparagus patch.
I did.
Let's discuss, because I have a few little sprigs. As you guys know my asparagus journey. So is that needed to rejuvenate? Why do you clean up your asparagus patch?
Well, number one, so you can find the spears when you're ready to pick it. Although I think you don't pick yet this year. I don't think.
I got one more year. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in. And depending, if you've seen any disease on the asparagus, when it turns yellow in the fall, it's perfectly fine to get rid of it then.
Okay.
If it's been healthy, doesn't show any signs of any problems, I like to leave it there. It's kind of a snow fence in the garden. And then on some day in spring when I'm looking for something to do, I'll go in and mow it off and do that, or do it by hand, depending.
Okay.
But it's just something to do if you got a warm spring day and you don't want to get into trouble by doing things that maybe it's too soon to do.
Yes. That's a little something you can do to hold you over.
Right.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And I was out there anyway, mowing down the grass that grows up on my naturalized daffodils that you've seen in bloom. So
oh, those are gorgeous.
it kind of grows up, and I got most of it mowed off earlier, but some of it wasn't, so I was doing that as well.
In the spirit of cleanup, we've got one more question. We've got a few minutes left here. Kathleen Kilmartin, this is a lot of cuh. Kathleen Kilmartin writes in, she wants to clean up her clematis, not just any clematis, the autumn clematis. And you asked me about that specifically because it matters. So is it too early for her to clean up that debris?
Right, the different types of clematis bloom on new wood, old wood, whatever. Since autumn clematis doesn't bloom until the fall, I'm pretty sure it blooms on new wood.
Okay.
So I think cutting it back would probably start to be appropriate from now forward. And I don't know how much you want to cut it back. It's a pretty voracious grower, so it doesn't. I don't believe it dies back like some of the colored flowering ones. So I would say maybe now, certainly within a couple of weeks, it would be fine to clean that up.
Okay, and I was asking you about this, so we didn't want to run afoul with the entomologists and the folks who are concerned about beneficial insects and pollinators.
Right.
And the difference there is?
Well, the clematis has such a tiny, narrow stem that I don't believe it has enough pith space for anything but just a really microscopic insect to be in there. And maybe there's something that would be, but I would say probably not. Might want to keep your eyes peeled, say, for something obvious like a praying mantis nest.
Okay.
It looks kind of like yellowed styrofoam stuck onto things.
Okay. So be mindful. Just be mindful if you're out there piddling around. And before we go, thank you so much, Donna, for these lovely little butter cookies. They are so good. I was telling Chuck I just wanted to pour some milk in there and eat them like a bowl of cereal. So delicious, as always. She spoils us. But thank you, Chuck, so much for coming in.
You're welcome.
We learned a lot today, and we're getting there, folks. Spring is coming. So thank you so much for watching. If you've got questions, send them in to us at yourgarden@gmail.com, or just search for us on socials. Look for MidAmerican Gardener, and we will see you next time. Good night.